Greetings and welcome. As you come on in, please type 1111 in the chat box, or give me a thumbs up, or shoot an emoji. I am super excited to have the chance to connect with you here today on my weekly live open Q&A and energy healing show here on YouTube, simply known as SEM Mondays, and SEM, of course, is short for Source Energy Medicine. I hope you're in the right place. So I love having the consistency of SEM Mondays. It's a lot of work on our part, just logistics and everything, but all of that fades away so quickly when I get here, knowing that, I think without SEM Mondays, there are a lot of people who find Source Energy Medicine but are not able to get the answers to their questions. And then, I don't know about you, but if I am starting something that's very new, very different, and somewhat complex, if I can't get the answers to my questions, I tend to move on to something else. So I created SEM Mondays, so hopefully it doesn't happen to anyone in our community, and so we can have the opportunity to get together every single Monday, God willing, and with the exception of holidays, to answer your questions. I have some questions that have come in by the various ways that other questions make their way to me. Thank you, Carrie Gal, for the 11 and Fifth Wheel Red. Good morning from Victoria, BC. That's awesome. I hope it's a stunningly beautiful day there, my friends. And, when I started SEM Mondays, it was a quick 11-minute Q&A, just because it seemed, then everyone was super busy. And since COVID-19, since this health crisis started, I have been extended the format, and I've been including a group energy healing session as part of our weekly show. And I'll talk more about the energy healing as we get to it. But the first part's going to be Q&A. Second part's going to be the energy healing. And if you are totally new to Source Energy Medicine, or you have been exploring the charging labels and you don't know about the energy healing work, it's the same technology that we utilize within our charging label system, except there's no charging labels, no bottles, and no water. And because of that, it's known as the non-material aspect of Source Energy Medicine. It is absolutely the fastest, most direct, most efficient way to experience Source Energy Medicine, for me to be able to share Source Energy Medicine with you. So the energy healing session is a mini session. It's quite short, just takes a few minutes, and my intention with this is to work on all of the key components, right? Transforming, balancing, and restoring. Same process that we use with the charging labels, the things that are most essential to helping you to maintain your health and well-being during this health crisis. So if you don't know about the non-material aspect of Source Energy Medicine, when we're done here, just search either on YouTube in the search bar or on Google for Source Energy Medicine, non-material aspect, or non-material aspect of Source Energy Medicine, and there's some videos on our YouTube channel where I talk about it. So if you are here with me live, please go ahead and if you're here with me live and you have a question, please go ahead and type it into the chat, and I'll do my best to bounce back and forth between really the topic that I want to talk about today. Answers a slew of questions that have come in over the last couple of weeks, so it has kind of gone up in order based on the number of questions that are all very, very, very related. So I hope that makes sense. And thank you, Sadavjeet. Sadavjeet says, Namaskar, Stephen. Namaskar, Sadavjeet. And that's interesting. And back to back, Deb says, Namaste, Stephen, and everyone, X's and O's. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Sadavjeet. There's our friend, Linda. Carrie Gale asks, I have some labels where small parts have been started to bleed as moisture has seeped in. Is there just a part of the label that is crucial to have clear, or does it need to be the whole label? That's an excellent question, Carrie Gale. And the short answer is the entire label has to be intact, and the entire label has to be legible. So if it starts to get smeared, change that label. Certainly the 1 inch on the left-hand side of the label, if you're looking at the printed side, is where what looks like all of the important information, and yet there's technology that's embedded in the entire charging label. So if any of it gets smeared, damaged, water can't literally read it, then you're not getting the maximum benefit from that charging label. So I would certainly replace it. And so the topic that I want to talk about today is about healing reactions or healing crisis, or in like homeopathy, they would call it approving. And within medical communities, there is, it's called a Herxheimer reaction or Herxheimer response. And I'm going to start there. So Herxheimer response is if you have been taking broad spectrum antibiotics, which kill every bacteria, right? It's going to kill every bacteria, friendly and unfriendly, helpful and unhelpful. But those dead bacteria are in your body, and it's up to your excretory system to get them out. A lot of people have compromised immune systems, compromised excretory systems, which complicates that, right? Because the dead bacteria create a toxic environment. So whatever symptoms that you had that we believe to be unfriendly bacteria that started it, and it's not just broad spectrum antibiotics, right? There are a lot of quote unquote natural or holistic approaches that are approaches to kill the bacteria, right? And indiscriminately. So that kind of high level of toxicity, you get all kinds of like flu-like symptoms, certainly your symptoms for whatever it was that took you to wherever you went to receive the treatment, likely will increase, right? Likely will become more severe. In extreme cases, you can end up in the hospital. So one of the blessings within source energy medicine is we're not killing, we're not destroying, we're not fighting. We're simply transforming an unfriendly bacteria to a friendly bacteria. So specifically in this instance, it's impossible to have a Herxheimer-like reaction because we're not actually killing the bacteria. We're simply transforming unfriendly bacteria to a friendly bacteria. It's a relatively recent discovery that bacteria, friendly bacteria, are essential to our health and well-being. And in a healthy human, we should have more friendly bacteria than we actually have cells. And we have trillions of cells. So, think about that for a while, especially based on the last 25 years or so. We've probably longer waged a serious war against bacteria, right? All of these hand sanitizers and cleansers and mouthwashes and toothpaste, and it just goes on and on and on. There's so many things that indiscriminately kill bacteria. So now that said, since we're simply transforming energy patterns, and the energy pattern, whether it's a pathogen or an emotion, is simply being transformed from, if you use the Hawkins scale, from below 200 to above 200, or darkness to light, if you will. Because we're doing that, especially when we're working on the emotional body, when we're transforming, say, grief, we're not stirring up past griefs, right? We're simply transforming the residue. There are a lot of people who proclaim that our cells have a cellular memory and hold on to those stored emotions, right? And then think about it. Those cells are going to then go and rebuild an organ or a function or a system that they're associated with. And then that emotion, in a sense, gets locked into that organ or function or system. And it is one way that imbalance doesn't start, but it certainly adds fuel to the challenge, right? So I would agree that our bodies do hold on to emotions, and the cellular memory piece is probably about 10% of the challenge with that. So even when we're transforming grief, it does not get stirred up, it does not get reactivated, re-stimulated, right? Re-experienced. So, and I think this is particularly interesting, or especially interesting, when we talk about the energy healing, right? The non-material aspect of source energy medicine. Because within the energy work, the work is much, much faster, right? We're able to, not in these mini sessions that I'm offering here on SEM Mondays Live, but when I work one-on-one with a client, we're often able to achieve 9 months or 12 months worth of what, if you were exploring the charging labels and bottles of water, would take, right? So, and, you know, and especially in the energy healing aspect, if someone has a healing reaction, so this gets really very sensitive, right? Because people's reactions are their experience, right? And their experience is based on their beliefs. So before source energy medicine, if I look at my beliefs, what I believe to be true about dis-ease, as well as health and well-being and the healing process, radically different than my beliefs now. Then I used to believe, which was based on my experience and based on what a lot of the experts that I was studying with taught me, that healing was slow and painful. It had to be cathartic, or it had to be dramatic. I had to drum stuff up and really go through the muck. Healing was slow and painful and difficult, and usually required a lot of time and energy and financial investment. And I really had to work very, very hard at healing. So those are very strong beliefs, and those very strong beliefs created my paradigm of reality, and that was the way I experienced healing. If I went and worked with a practitioner and did energy work, if I didn't have some kind of dark night of the soul afterwards, I would think that the work was ineffective. You know, it was like I wanted it to be dramatic. I wanted it to be painful in some sick way. Not that I wanted it to be painful, but that was my experience and that was my expectation. So there's a video on our YouTube channel where I talk all about expectations and what you can experience with source energy medicine. And I believe the title on it, or the thumbnail, says, you know, what, there's, I believe, two. Will source energy medicine work for me? And what can I expect to experience with source energy medicine? And it's also in the free mini course, the Source Energy Medicine Quick Start Guide. So if you have not watched that, it's essential viewing. But beyond that, it's then up to me, it's up to you to look at what do you believe to be true about health and healing and the healing process, the healing journey, and what do you believe to be true about dis-ease, right? Because all of those beliefs that I held before 2004 were actually part of what I consider, what I characterize as the old paradigm. And we've been out of the old paradigm for a long, long time, probably 20 years now. And there certainly was a transition, right? And if you think about it, I had, like, all of those beliefs were related to the old paradigm and my experiences from the old paradigm and challenges that started in the old paradigm. So you may have a challenge or and beliefs that are really from the old paradigm. And now I've done work, and this is, you've likely, if you've been following me any length of time, you've heard me say probably numerous times that in an ideal world, everyone would heal on the conscious, unconscious, and subconscious pieces or realms. And this work of looking at what I believe to be true is the work of the unconscious, where it's the most helpful. But I had, like, all of those were conscious beliefs for me, right? That was my programming, right? That was my mental construct of what the healing journey should look like, right? What it has to look like, which then does not leave any room for spontaneous healing, graceful healing, elegant healing, healing to be not a lot of work, right? And results can be experienced instantaneously in many cases, unless I have contradicting beliefs. If I have contradicting beliefs, that's going to determine my experience, right? There's no medicine on this planet that can override your conscious beliefs. It's tied into your free will. It's tied into you being a human being, right? It's like the one of the few universal laws that cannot be overridden. So at a certain point in time, so part of the reason why I love the divine orchestration in this, because when I receive an email from someone and they're saying they're having a healing reaction, right? Source energy medicine is causing the healing reaction. I know enough about source energy medicine that I know that that's not true, can't be true, and yet I know enough about working with people one-on-one that they're having some kind of a reaction, right? It's not to source energy medicine, it's actually to their beliefs. Now you might think, how could a belief possibly cause that kind of a negative reaction? And if you read Candace Pert's work, or Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, or Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, you could spend months reading all of their work, and it would certainly help you to understand how it is that your beliefs, to a large degree, influence what you experience on a moment-to-moment basis and in every aspect of life. So what I believe to be true about money and work and investing, to a large degree, determines what I experience in those realms. What I believe to be true about my physical form and aging and dis-ease and stuff that runs in my family line, and what happens as the clock ticks, all of that influences what I experience every day, year in, year out. So I hope that makes sense. At a certain point, it's really, 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 really helpful to dive into unconscious and conscious beliefs. A couple of years ago, I created a 30-day belief challenge, and we only open registration once a year on that, and that's going to be coming up in February, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that. But within 30 days, we go through, starting with the most important beliefs, what I believe to be true about more than 30 different topics in 30 days. So, and this isn't a sales pitch for that, and yet, if you don't either do that work within our 30-day belief challenge or on your own, long-term positive results are going to be really, really, really minimalized, right? It's going to minimize the possibility of long-term positive results. Whereas if you choose to do that work either within our belief challenge or on your own, or with a professional, right, with a trained facilitator, then long-term positive results just increase, the possibility increases exponentially, right? Otherwise, it's going to be a huge missing piece, and it's going to create a ceiling to your progress. Certainly going to slow your progress as well. So I hope that makes sense. And I just want to check the chat here and see if any questions came in. If you have any questions about the healing reactions and things like that, just certainly leave your comment. And of course, if you're watching in replay, if you have questions or comments, scroll down, leave them in the comment box below. And I do my best to answer as many of the questions that come in as possible, but often it's impossible to just keep up with it all, but I do my best. So Carrie Gale asks, following up to her earlier, does that mean I should start over? I would reprint those labels. And, it depends on which source energy medicines they are, right? So it doesn't necessarily, it depends on what part of the label too, and how long it has been smeared or damaged or illegible. So there's a lot of things to consider. Linda shares ELP 10 plus progressing every 2 weeks means what exactly? And namaste. Thank you, Linda. Namaste, my friend. So, since ELP fusion number 1 came about, right? Energy level progression fusion number 1 came about, I have yet to hear from anyone or any of our practitioners who take 10 through 46. 10 through 46 these days is most helpful if you're having a hard time reaching your ideal energy level, right? There's something that's getting in the way, and even that, I would look at other approaches rather than 10 through 46. So I continue to offer 10 through 46 just in case, right? But most people, I have yet to hear from anyone, and we're talking years. I think it was 2008 that the ELP fusion came about, and since then, folks just they don't need 10 through 46. Now, if you do need it, you take ELP 10 for 2 weeks, and then you take ELP 11 for 2 weeks, and then 12 for 2 weeks, and you keep going all the way to the ELP that's associated with your ideal energy level, if you know that. If not, you go all the way to 46. So I hope that makes sense, Linda and everyone else. Sadavjeet asks, how can I download the Source Energy Medicine source graphic is what she's asking about. So Sadavjeet, I know you're part of our Fundamentals online workshops, and they're included as a handout in the workshops. So I will ask Milo to send you a direct link to the module that has those available. So yeah. Linda says, I started on 11 through 20, so it's almost a whole year I've been doing this protocol. So 11 through 20 isn't a waste of time, right? It certainly will help to stabilize your energy level. No question about it, right? If you have been doing 11 for 2 weeks and then 12, progressing the way I suggested, you can stop at 20, right? And the only reason why to go on to 21 is if your energy level has been very unstable, right? And I'm just going to take this a little bit deeper, because if your energy level is unstable, there's more to it than that, right? So typically what I find with most people is it's unstable because they don't have much of a conscious awareness practice, right? So they're not aware of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and are dwelling unconsciously in a lot of slow energy thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The ones that pose the biggest problems, or the things that pose the biggest problems to me achieving my ideal energy level and having that be really stable, is fear. And there's a wide variety of fear, right? From mild anxiety to sheer and utter panic, right? And we've never, ever had, even before this pandemic started, we were living with unprecedented levels of fear. Since the pandemic, it's just exponentially off the charts, right? So, and I don't care where you live, you're exposed to it, right? We swim in a sea of fear. So I would look more at the fear, or if it's grief, or if it's harsh judgments. Harsh judgments have such a strong negative effect. And I used to think being discerning like that, right? Having the ability to judge something harshly, whether it's a person or a book or a course or an event. I thought that was like part of my winning formula. And now I know there's nothing good that comes from harsh judgments, right? Part of my daily spiritual practice is just to surrender all of my judgments to the source of all creation, allow the source of all creation to judge everyone and everything. It's not my role. It's not my place. My place is to love everyone and love everything, especially when they're not being lovable, right? When they're kicking me in the shins or showing up as a mean, nasty, uncaring person, right? Never, ever, ever before have we needed more tolerance, more compassion, more unconditional love, really agape love. Agape love to me goes way beyond unconditional love. So I hope that makes sense. And so I just want to finish that. So harsh judgment, fear, stress, and trauma are the four biggest. So think about stress and trauma. I have talked about this numerous times on SEM Mondays. I really think we're going to see civilians being diagnosed with PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder, which used to only be experienced by war heroes and those who work in police or fire or medical emergency kind of folks, right? Rescue workers, things like that. And of course, all of the folks who are war heroes. But what we have all experienced to a greater or lesser degree, most of this year, is going to attribute or lead to what would be characterized as PTSD. No question about it, because of the high level of fear and stress for such a prolonged period of time. So I would look at those rather than ELP 11 through 46. So I want to segue into the energy healing part of our show. On your end, it's really important for you to know, whether you're watching this live or in replay, the potential is the same. And to tie it back to my the whole thread about healing reactions, I could have a belief that in my belief, unless I'm sitting in someone's office face to face in human form, energy healing can't work, right? And that type of belief is going to interfere with this. Now, I'm not trying to convince you that energy healing works remotely and it's equally effective live or in replay, but I have enough feedback, I have enough evidence, I have worked with enough people long distance, and not always with them on the phone with me or on Zoom or on YouTube, but more often than not, I'm working with a client from their photograph and they don't even know when I'm working with them. And the results are undeniable, right? They are tangible, measurable, irrefutable. So beliefs are again, check out that video on expectations. Super, super, super helpful, because that's the key to, right? If I believe that I am worthy, that I deserve healing, that even though there's a challenge that might be significant, it might be serious, that's in manifestation, there's no such as something that's impossible or without hope or beyond the scope of potential or possibility, right? There is no order of difficulty when it comes to miracles, and it's a quote from A Course in Miracles. But the reason why there is no order of difficulty when it comes to miracles is because it is that divine energy within you that is always responsible for your healing experience. And when you're not having a healing experience, it's the human part of you that is blocking it, right? Usually it's related to the ego, but it's often related to beliefs, right? Unconscious and conscious beliefs about what's possible, or really strong beliefs about the dis-ease because someone with medical degree gave you a prognosis that was really bleak and they had no treatment options for you. That leads to a very strong belief that, you know, this is terminal, this is fatal, I have a finite number of days to live. And, you know, I've worked with enough people where, in spite of the data, they chose to believe a different story, and they took massive action, and they were able to transform, balance, and restore if it was within source energy medicine. But I've heard hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of stories outside of source energy medicine from people who have had spontaneous remission, spontaneous healing, what would often be characterized as miraculous healing. So I hope that makes sense. You know, and our work is really to get out of the way, get the ego out of the way, and just allow and receive. Breathe into your worthiness, breathe into your deservedness, breathe into the divine orchestration that brought you to this moment where you will have the opportunity to experience this gift. So the work is phenomenally fast. It'll likely be 5 minutes or so. I'm going to focus my intention and attention on transforming, balancing, restoring the things that are most critical to helping to keep you well during this pandemic. And on your end, I encourage you to pick one goal or one challenge, and one per session, right? You could watch this very same replay 10 times and each time choose a different goal or a different challenge, right? And the reason why I say one is if I choose one, then it's much, much, much easier for me to keep track of progress, right? Much, much easier. Whereas if I have 5, it's hard to say what's working, what's not working, what needs some more focused energy, some more love and attention, right? So I turn my camera off when I do this work, and I have chanting playing in the background. So I invite you to get as comfortable as you can and simply allow. A lot of people like to close their eyes. They believe that it helps to increase the receptivity, and I completely agree with that. But please only do that if you are in a place where it is safe and appropriate. And if it's not safe or appropriate for you to close your eyes, please don't. And if you're in a busy environment where there's a lot of distractions, it might be a good idea to revisit this another time in addition to, so that you can honor the healing process, so that you can honor your healing journey and allow this work, these gifts, these blessings to be received more deeply and more fully. Continue to breathe comfortably. Continue to breathe into the awareness that there is no order of difficulty when it comes to miracles. Healing can happen quickly, under grace, in divine, perfect, and miraculous ways. That is your birthright. Everything else creates resistance to you experiencing that. And often that's the work. Often the work is transforming what is the resistance. Where am I blocking the healing that the source of all creation is flooding your being with? And as you think of that one goal or that one challenge, try and see it the way the source of all creation sees it. And try and see yourself the way the source of all creation sees you, which I believe is as innocent, perfect, radiantly beautiful, eternal, precious. The source of all creation created your soul out of love and put you in this physical form to bring your own special gifts, your own unique brightness. No one else on this planet is here for the same reason that you are, and no one else can take your place, and you can't take anyone else's place. The source of all creation created you out of love and put you here for a reason. Continue to breathe comfortably and at your own pace. Continue to allow and receive these blessings, these gifts, and these miracles. invite you to take a nice deep breath and continue to allow the blessings and the gifts and the miracles to flow to you quickly, under grace, in perfect, divine, and miraculous ways. And if your eyes are closed, slowly blink them open and come on back here with me live on SEM Mondays here on YouTube. That's awesome. See a comment from Linda, says she started Source Energy Medicine January 1st of this year, 2020. That's an auspicious day to start. So almost a whole year she's been following the protocols and she's feeling great and making lots of progress. Congratulations, Linda. Bless you for sticking with it, and awesome to hear you're feeling great. Certainly, gosh, you know, each one of these group non-material sessions is different than even the ones on SEM Mondays, even though my intention is always the same, focusing on those essential parts to help to keep you healthy, to help to keep you well during this health crisis. Each one is different, right? Each one has its own morphic field, and I don't have time to talk about morphic fields if you don't understand what they are, but each one is unique and each one is different. And while each one does have similar potential and possibility, they're all unique, right? It's like apples from the same tree, right? There are some apples in some trees that are in some trees that are going to be different than another apple from that same tree. So even though this work was phenomenally fast in such a short period of linear time, just know that this work will continue to be integrated into every aspect of your being for quite some time to come. I believe there's massive benefit to re-watching the replay, to either this one or one of the other SEM Mondays, and just fast forward to when the energy healing session begins, get nice and comfortable, choose a different goal or a challenge, and re-experience it. There are so many people in our community who have been watching a replay once or twice a day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day for people who experience high levels of stress, going back since March, right? And they've managed to have to include these group energy healing sessions as part of. They say to me all the time that it's part of the reason why they've stayed well through this health crisis, which I think is such a blessing, to be able to have the technology where we all get to stay in our own homes or offices and, watch this at our convenience, and watch the replay as often, as frequently as possible. Whatever you think is most helpful for you, trust that, right? Trust your inner guidance system. There's certainly no possible downside to it, right? As I started this talking about healing reactions. There's no possibility of a healing reaction, and yet the potential upside to watching the replays once or twice or 3 times a day, huge benefit. Even if it's nothing other than reducing the level of stress and fear and trauma that you experience every day, I think it is an amazing gift. And I like to live my life. I like to think I live my life like every day is like Thanksgiving, without the feast and the family most of the time. But just from a place of pure gratitude. And I don't like to think what my life would be like without Source Energy Medicine. And, and I honestly had super strong resistance to YouTube. There's a lot of things about YouTube that are less than ideal in my mind, and yet it provides this platform where we can connect, where we can have the opportunity to bask in this unconditionally loving, healing energy. So I am super grateful. It works most of the time, and we're able to, God willing, be here every Monday, unless there's a holiday or something like that. So my friends, between now and next Monday, stay connected. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe, click that cool little bell icon. That way YouTube will let you know every time that I am live, or when I post a new nugget of Source Energy Medicine wisdom video. If you're totally new to Source Energy Medicine, you definitely want to check out the Source Energy Medicine Quick Start Guide. It includes everything that's essential to your journey with Source Energy Medicine. It's all free. There's a link in the show notes below this player. And it has, I think, 16 different video modules, the charging label file, electronic copy of my book, Heal Thyself, and really everything that's essential, not only to get started, but for your entire journey. And for those of you who are ready for your next step, you want to learn how to master Source Energy Medicine so that you can really maximize the gifts that are within this technology. We do have online courses for that. We're going to be opening registration in just a couple of weeks so that you have the opportunity to give yourself the gift of healing for the holidays. I think never, ever, ever before has there been a greater time, a more important time to take charge of your health and well-being, right? To explore healing, not just on a surface level, right? Not just, not most people that have come to just resign themselves. I was there for most of my life where, if the pain was somewhat tolerable, I was okay. And I self-medicated to make the pain when it was not tolerable. And it was a horrible, horrible way to live and caused so much damage that took me years to recover from. So bless you for being open to exploring deep, profound healing, and in a way that is completely safe, right? So, as always, I wish you continued blessings on your journey with Source Energy Medicine. God willing, I'll see you back here next Monday. Bye for now.